Train that Sunday was filled to standing with the young, the restless, the earnest, the curious, and Finnegan, who was going for the girls. Oliver would have been content to sit out the noise and spectacle with a cooler of beer by the family pool, but Finnegan had convinced him this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. "What about free love don't you understand, Cross?" Finnegan had said, which, all in all, was a pretty effective argument. And so Oliver sat on that train as it snaked through the tenements and industry of the northern part of the city. The fringed leather satchel of some long hair standing in the aisle banged into Oliver's shoulder with every turn. "Sorry, man," said the long hair without doing anything about it. Probably a McGovern supporter. The train emptied at Clybourne, and a jaunty, smoke-wreathed parade headed east over the bridge on Cortlandt toward Lincoln Park. There would be a concert, speakers, yippies and hippies, and girls with loose shirts and flowers in their hair. The sky was high, the day was perfect, and Lincoln Park was the place to be as long as you left before 11 because Mayor Daley had decreed that the park was to be emptied by 11. "The last train back is at 10:15, said Finnegan, looking over a printed schedule as the two waited for a couple hot dogs at a shack on Armitage with a Vienna beef sign overhead. "I don't expect I'll last that long," said Oliver. "Let's catch something about 5. "Unless we catch something else." "Syphilis." "Don't be such a killjoy." "Unlike you, Finnegan, I have a girlfriend." "In Michigan, man. What has that got to do with anything?" "When's the first train after 5? 5:37. Let's shoot for that. The festival should be over by then, and Florence is making a ham." "What happened to you, Cross? You're like an old man already." The Franks came freshly grilled, with long slivers of pickle, hot peppers, and tomato slices, along with onions and that peculiar Chicago relish that is so green it looks like a traffic light signaling go. Eat. Enjoy. Oliver splatted mustard on top. No ketchup, thank you, and took a bite. Through the soft bun and garden loaded on top, he could feel the casing snap between his teeth and taste the spurt of grease. Suddenly there was no war, no politics. His mother was still alive. His father still knew how to smile. His brother was home from Vietnam, and Ernie Banks was back to play shortstop at Wrigley Field. Was there anything better in the whole wide world than a Chicago dog? Oliver Cross missed the 5:37 north to Kenosha. He also missed the 10:15. Instead of being asleep in his bed at midnight with a stomach full of Florence's ham, he found himself on Clark Street, just west of Lincoln Park, holding hands with strangers on the front lines of a war. On his left stood a red-haired, freckled girl with a bandana stretched over her nose and mouth to protect against the expected fusillade of tear gas. On his right stood a tall man with glasses and a beard shouting out a string of obscenities. They were part of a line that fronted a writhing mob of youth facing off against a row of helmeted, blue-shirted police intent on clearing the roadway with all deliberate violence and speed. And right then, in the middle of the madness, Oliver couldn't have told you how he got there. He had lost sight of Finn in the afternoon hours during the short-lived so-called Festival of Light, where slithering guitars and unintelligible lyrics had been blasting through the crowd and across the lagoon in the middle of the park. Everyone had been pressing forward because the band wasn't on a stage and no one could see a thing, and in the melee, the two friends had lost contact. Oliver was actually relieved to be alone. He wanted to dig the brave new world in which he had found himself on his own without Finn's judgment or sarcasm. The music was loud, the mob was dancing. There were balloons in the trees and hats of every variety, and Mary Jane was being passed freely from hand to hand as if the drug itself were an integral part of the festival. That Abby Hoffman sure knew how to put on a show. Oliver wasn't much for drugs. He was his father's son and would have preferred a martini. But somehow, there, it had felt wrong to give his usual, "No thanks, I'm cool." The crowd itself told him he wasn't so cool after all. There were kids within the throng, high schoolers still, with so much natural defiance in their bones, that he felt